Two Arsenal fans hosting a pod. It's about time we speak about the one and only Thierry Henry. Today we're going to look at his very best goals for Arsenal. Are you well, Andrew?
Yeah, doing well. I'm looking forward to this bit of controversy on the way, I think.
Oh, a bit of nostalgia as well. I think there'll be some goals in there that we sort of probably forgotten about, and then suddenly, one of us will mention it, and there we go, and we're away. We'll tee up an assist. Best double act since Bergkamp and Henry themselves. And we'll tee up the assist, and then you can just sort of slot it home and take all the glory with his best goal.
Yeah. How you doing? You all right? You well?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Sort of like I say,
doing your research
to this chat. No, I don't need to, mate. It's all locked away. It's all locked away in the memory bank of Arsenal nostalgia. Full disclosure, though, for the listeners out there, Andrew and I discussed talking about Thierry Henry's very best goals for Arsenal, and actually, we quickly came to the conclusion that we need a bit of a double shortlist. We need the very best goals, but also the most important, the greatest, if you will, because sometimes they're very different things. Sometimes it can be a pure strike, top bins, an unbelievable goal, but actually means very little. It's either in a friendly or it's in a meaningless cup game. And actually, is that going to be as important as a monumental winner or something, even if it's just scraped over the line? And I think obviously they always say that, don't they, about strikers? Are they a scorer of great goals or are they a great goal scorer? And obviously Henry was a bit of both. He scored a great volume of goals and really important goals. Some of those would have been tap-ins. Some of those would have been, absolutely. But equally, he also scored some absolute crackers, and that's what we're also going to talk about.
Well, there's 228 of them to look at. I mean, I found when I was going for the best category, I found myself sort of delving deeper into the archives, really, because I started to detach myself from the importance and the emotion of the goals and just went for, we'll talk about this obviously when we get onto it, but the pure quality of the actual goal instead of the moment, for example, which comes up more in the important ones, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Which we want to look at first? Do we want to look at his most important or his best?
Maybe let's crack on with important, yeah.
Yeah, let's go for important. So do you want to do your top three, or do you want to go three for you, three for me, second for you, second for me?
Should we do three, third and third, and second?
Yeah, let's do that then. Let's do that then.
Right, so third place. I mean, he scored a few goals in North London derbies. Not as many as Pires, I don't think. But I've gone for the equaliser at Highbury at the 84th, 85th minute for the race in the top four.
2006. That was going to make my list of honourable mentions. It doesn't make my top three. That's a huge goal.
Yeah, I mean, Adebayo had a great part to play in that. I watched it a few times back. You could argue there's a foul on the halfway line. I think it was on Stambouli, but Adebayo kicks his ankles. But luckily, the ref played on. And I remember in that game, obviously, Robbie Keane scored quite a dubious goal, I think, to put them in front. It kicked off on the sidelines, didn't it, with Yol and Wenger?
It was very good. Yeah, it was a very tasty affair in general. I remember watching that game in a pub with my family, and my brother and his fiancée at the time. She's a Spurs fan, actually, and obviously he's an Arsenal fan. We're an Arsenal fan. Outrageous that you'd get together with a Spurs fan, but nonetheless, they were and the tension between the two of them watching that, because they were there, it was just a nasty game. But it was so important. I think obviously we go on and we nick fourth place eventually from them that year, but it was such a titanic battle.
Well, it was the first time in our own history as fans, I guess, to where we were actually genuinely excited and into a top four challenge, because we'd usually be challenging for titles, and I think at the time we were 4 points behind Spurs, and then after that we were obviously remained 4 points because it obviously went on to draw 1-1.
Yeah.
But we had a game in hand, so it was huge that we got that equaliser, because it would have been 6 points clear, I think, with like 3 games left. It wasn't looking great. So, that was my third.
Well, 7 points, really. Yeah. So like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, bronze medal for that one. So yeah, like I said, the North London derby, obviously honourable mention in my list would have been in his best one that we'll talk about later. I'm sure you'll probably have a flashback of what one I'm talking about, but that'll be on my best category.
Yeah, that's firmly in my best category, firmly in there. A couple of other honourable mentions then before I give my third place on his most important goals. I've got the penalty to seal Highbury against Wigan in terms of the most important goal.
Cool.
Ultimately, he seals a hat-trick. The last ever game at Highbury, I think almost that nearly came in my top 3 actually, because in terms of importance,
Mm.
that will always be
Mm.
obviously the last
Mm.
goal at Highbury. That will always be, you know, the last goal that closed the stadium, and obviously almost the king of Highbury, leaving with, like you said, 200
Mm.
plus goals for Arsenal.
Mm.
Um, to me, that was a monumentally important moment in our
Is that, it's
history.
interesting you say that, because the other one that I had in my sort of short list is very similar in terms of the emotion that it evokes, which was his goal at the Emirates when he came back and scored against Leeds.
Well, that might well be my top 3. I'm
Mm.
just going to say that might well be my top 3,
Mm.
because for me, important can be important
Mm.
to Arsenal in
Mm.
terms of our success in a competition,
Mm.
but also important to a fan and to, you know, importance. Um, Another one that's out there for me is in importance is the Sparta Prague goal, to equal Ian Wright's goal scoring record. It's a fantastic strike outside of the boot, curling in. Again, obviously terribly important for in terms of the annals of Arsenal. Kind of meaningless European game ultimately, but actually incredibly important for us as a club.
Mm.
Yeah, so those are some honourable mentions, but there's loads out there, isn't there? There's big winners. There's the Man United winner, you know, header towards the end of his career at Arsenal. There's lots of winners in there, but
Yeah.
I think in importance in terms of that.
Yes, it's like I feel like my 3 are more the importance in the moment of the context of the season or the competition. Whereas, like you've said, and with that, the Leeds goal and the goal you just mentioned as well
Yeah,
against
Sparta.
Sparta in the Champions League, it can also mean the
Yeah,
emotion
absolutely.
side of it as well, not just the
Um,
importance of the game.
Well, you know, we'll jump onto into my third, because I'm, to be honest with you, I'm very sure in both the top 3s we're going to have a lot of clashes. You know,
Mm.
we're going to have goals we agree on. But third for me, and I think this might appear a little higher on your list, is the goal against Liverpool at home. You know, in the unbeaten season. You know, we can talk about that, because I know, you know, that might be appear higher on your list, but it's just such it's a great goal. You know, it's again, you score great goals, but also score a great goal scorer. But also, I think the context is more important almost than the goal. The context of the week that went before it, with Arsenal crashing out of the Champions League to Chelsea, which to me is still the lowest I've ever felt in a football match, watching a football match, that game. I've never felt like, even the Champions League final that we went on to lose, after that Champions League final, you kind of had this feeling of we gave it everything we had. We came so close to European glory. And on the one hand, that hurts more, but equally, you've got no excuse, no regrets. I firmly believe we were the best team in Europe in 2004. You know, and we go out to Chelsea. They go on and then lose to Monaco in the semi, and then Porto go and win the Champions League. We were the best team in Europe, and I genuinely believe we would have won the Champions League if we'd got through Chelsea in that quarterfinal. We would
Mm.
have played Monaco in the semis and then Porto in the final. We could have arguably blown them both away. We were that good in the unbeaten season. But we crash out to Chelsea, and we crash out to Man United in the FA Cup, and we come to play Liverpool at home, and we go down twice in that game, I think. Certainly once, but I think twice. And we go in at half time 2-1 down. And we've almost, I say 45 minutes to save our season. We could go on and win the league even if we lose our unbeaten record there, because we're well in the title fight. But equally, we've got 45 minutes to turn that round, and he does so with a fantastic goal. So that's third for me. Um,
Mm. I won't say too much.
yeah, absolutely. What about number 2 for you?
2, silver medal. I've gone for the goal against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. We don't go on to win the trophy, I know, but I just feel the occasion, the team that we were playing against, it was like, I know obviously he had the performance in Milan against Inter as well, but it was just to walk past that many top players in one goal. I couldn't overlook that really.
No,
And
it's also my second choice. Actually, we agree
yeah,
on the silver medal selection. I
mm,
think it's a phenomenal goal. Shrugging off players. It was a typical Henry goal in terms of pace, power.
mm,
Um, it was coming towards the end of Arsenal being a top team, even though we do go to the Champions League final that year, as we just discussed.
mm,
Um, but he was still, you know, and there's a famous Gunner Galactico. He was still at the very top of the game at that point. And it was the first, I believe I'm saying right in saying it's the first English side to ever beat Madrid in the Bernabeu
mm,
when that was goal scored.
mm,
Um, he was, again, we got to the Champions League final, we don't win it, but that was a very young team he was dragging to the Champions League final. Vieira had departed, you know, we hadn't got that colossal
mm,
backline that we had in sort of 0102 in terms of the historic people at the club. You know, Sol was still there, but he was dragging a young team around him, people like Cesc, people like Flamini, people like that, to a Champions League final. And he did so under the lights in the Bernabeu. Yeah, phenomenal goal. And yes, for me, like you said, we don't get to the Champions League final without Thierry Henry. You could say, look, he missed a couple of chances in the final. We could win that game. Reality is we were playing the best team in Europe by that point. We're playing Barcelona in the final. We're not better than them. But we don't even get to the final without him. And that goal almost single-handedly gets us there. As you say, there's a big semi-final there that we sort of luck our way through with a huge Lehmann penalty save. But ultimately, that goal's hugely important. It carries us to our only Champions League final ever. It's our only European Cup final.
And although that night it was a very dark night in the club's history, as in for the result, but he got us to an occasion that we'll never forget. And
yeah, it's our only European Cup final.
Yeah, and you mentioned a minute ago about it was a very typical Henry goal. Maybe not the bending finish with the right foot, but the amount of goals I looked at the other day where it was that left foot drive into the bottom corner. Very underrated with his left foot, Henry.
And that pace to burst away from someone, it's hugely important. It's hugely important. Oh yeah, so there we're tying on silver medals there. Shall I go for my gold, and then you can?
Yeah, I'll wrap it up.
Yeah. So my gold, we did touch on it earlier in a brief session, is the Leeds Cup goal. In return in 2012, and so there's different ways of seeing important, because this gets to a Champions League final? Absolutely not. It's a third round cup tie with Leeds. Does this win us a title? Does this keep our unbeaten running going, which is the Invincible, is arguably one of the best achievements any domestic side has ever had? No, it doesn't do any of those things. But importance can also mean just a moment in your life, and I think actually a moment in Henry's life. I think there's been questions since about your favourite goal for Arsenal, and he's actually said that one. There was a famous quote he said which really resonates with me, that it was the first goal he scored as just a fan of the club, and that must be amazing. So it resonates. Imagine you were doing that on the pitch. I think in his first spell at Arsenal, clearly he's part of a very successful side that's winning trophies. He's probably focused on doing that, winning the trophies for Arsenal Football Club, but also being the best player in the world. By January 2012, he's not the best player in the world. He's not close to being the best player in the world. He's finishing his career at Red Bulls. What he's done is he's come back, and for one night only, he's sort of rolled back the years. And I know he went on and scored a couple of goals, I think Sunderland, Blackburn in the games to come. But for one night only, that clip ball by Song, and that finish is very classic Henry. Open the shoulder, right curl into the corner.
And I think as well, Tom, how many times we saw that goal made it even more emotional.
Yeah, exactly. It was literally like for us, you're watching Thierry Henry roll back the years. It's 2002, 2003, 2004 again. It's 8 years in your past. And it's a very different football club at that moment as well, which is why it's so important to me. When Henry was doing those things in his first spell, you almost took it for granted, because frankly, we were so good and he was so good. Like that. Yeah, he's opening his shoulder, rolling into the corner. It's another Thierry Henry special. It was just part of the course. And yet we hadn't seen that for 8 years. We've got, frankly, an awful football club at the time in terms of team on the pitch. The year before, we'd lost a League Cup final to Birmingham, and it'd been embarrassing. This is the kind of club we were at the time. And let's be honest, still not climbed the heights since. And for him to come on, that was so important for us as a moment, as a fan, and for him. So yeah, that took my most important.
I've got a long list of notes, should it be in their short lists, and that doesn't appear anywhere on my piece of paper. And I'll say that because it's my favourite Henry goal.
Yeah,
not the best. Don't think it was massively important, as in if we're going for context of game, to be fair, that was an important goal, but not gigantic. Yeah, it's my favourite Arsenal goal that Henry scored for us. For all the reasons that you've noted, really. And one of my favourite pieces of commentary at the time as well, cast in bronze, but still producing golden moments.
Well, this is it. Yeah, absolutely. You come back and you've got a statue outside the stadium at that point. You're literally, you should be someone that's sort of like presenting, champions tours around the stadium, because you're kind of retired at that point. Yeah, he's still semi-retired anyway, and yet he's still doing that. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay, so. Well, there's not much to say about my number one spot, gold medal. The most important goal that Henry scored for Arsenal was the goal against Liverpool at Highbury to make it 3-2 that you've mentioned earlier.
It's a huge
all
goal.
the reasons you've said before, really. I mean, I remember listening to that game on the radio at the time. I think it was an Easter bank holiday period. It was like Easter Monday, I think it was. And yeah, the United and Chelsea defeats, for how great that side was, apparently, like, you know, at the time you were hearing things that in the changing room they were on their knees as a team, and then for those characters to be on their knees, I mean, that was some dark week before, and to be going in at half time down. I think Owen grabbed a couple, I think, didn't he?
Yeah.
And we equalise, and then the relief in that stadium when he takes his shirt off and throws it into the air, which he did on a few occasions when you were allowed to do that, to make it 3-2. And he goes on to get the fourth, sort of hits him off his face, I think, and goes in the net. But that goal, I've never felt relief like it, because we were on the brink of really folding.
That was such a blur week for me. Yeah. Like, I remember we went. I was going on a school trip, actually, a stay away school trip, and
skiing.
It was indeed. And the day we left to go on the school trip was Man United game, and we lost 1-0 to that Paul Scholes goal. And at the time, I was obviously gutted, but I didn't really care. I was off on this school trip. I was looking forward to it. We had Chelsea midweek in the Champions League. And as far as I'm concerned, we're going to go win the Champions League and win the league this year. So although it takes away the chance of doing a treble, which is a shame, you know, we're the best team in Europe. We're not coasting the league, but we are phenomenal in the league. And, you know, we should beat Chelsea. We won all in the first leg with an away goal at Stamford Bridge. Coming home to Highbury, most people were only seeing one result there. You know, tough North London. Sorry, not North London. Tough London derby game in the Champions League.
We were the better team at the time.
But we're the better team than the team. We've got an away goal. They needed to win that first leg. They didn't. We're going to go through. And then during that school trip, obviously, we all watched that and we crash out. I am low as low. We come back and I watch this game against Liverpool, and it is huge. I mean, it's obviously it's in my top 3 for that reason. It's a monumental goal. Arguably keeps the unbeaten record going. The reason it didn't quite make my top 2, the reason it didn't is because it was the third goal. If it'd been the equalising goal in like the last minute or whatever, obviously it's literally saving the unbeaten run. And secondly, the only reason it didn't is there were lots of moments during that unbeaten run. You think like Yakubu clean through, you think Van Nistelrooy crashing something off the bar. I think to go unbeaten, there's going to be loads of moments which are so close. But yeah, I can't argue with it. It's a phenomenal selection for the most important goal, because, you know, when we needed the best player in the world, and he was the best player in the world for that year, to step up, you know, he scores a couple of goals and helps us retain that unbeaten record. So yeah, absolutely.
I think it was the mentioned earlier as well. I think it's the quality of the goal combined with the importance, which is why it was my number 1. Really, it wasn't
that's true.
Was it? You know, however,
no.
very. I mean, don't get me. If I'm being a little bit to put dirt on his name here, a little bit there. I mean, it wasn't like when we talk about the best goals later on. It doesn't really appear on my shortlist, purely because I just think the defending was quite.
Oh, the defending's atrocious. They literally let him go
poor, past. Really. I mean, Jamie Carragher. I don't know what he was doing, but.
Yeah, and a goal that may appear in both our top 3s is quite similar, actually. And when he goes on those long runs at speed, I guess it's quite harsh, because when someone's coming at you with that speed, you know you can't really touch them, otherwise you're giving away fouls and stuff like that. And I think it probably happens in a blink of an eye. But yeah, to watch on telly or in the stadium, you always look at that defending and think, why is he just not having him out there? Why is he
it's interesting you say that about the speed thing, because with the Madrid goal, I can see that as a you know, fair play. He's running,
and the Spurs goal, which may come up in a minute.
And the Spurs goal, maybe, yeah. But that one, when you watch it back, he picks the ball up just sort of like in Liverpool's half. Gilberto gives him the ball.
Yeah.
And
he's not that far out by that point.
He's not that far out. And at no point is he ever in free flow speed, you know? So, but still, the composure of the finish as well. That was a very classic finish. But yeah,
absolutely.
But that's my winner for that category.
No, 2 outstanding winners. So they're just a quick cap. We got the comeback goal against Leeds, the importance to what that meant to every single Arsenal fan, but also to Thierry Henry himself, and the phenomenal goal against Liverpool to keep our unbeaten season alive, to take us off the ropes after a horrible week, and obviously to be invincible. I think 2 cracking selections, which moves us more to not a more fun category, because they're both fun. Looking at Thierry Henry's goal catalogue is always fantastic, but the subject of best goal. And it's interesting. How did you approach best goal? Was it pure goal strike, or was it actually, you know, what it meant? Or
I changed my mind a few times, really. Sort of umming and ahhing between different sorts of criteria, and I ended up going for a quite detached, robotic one, really. I went for purely the quality of the
Yeah,
strike slash move.
yeah, it's
Um,
fair.
and I've got a bit of a mixture in my three, to be fair. I haven't gone for just three Thunderbolts because there were a few to pick out,
Yeah,
Um, but I think there might be some similarities. I'm predicting there'll be some similarities in our
yeah. I
pick.
think there might be again, and I think
But
that's
I also think there'll be because I've got a little bit of a random one that I've gone for in my third place. So should
well.
we?
I've got a little bit of random one for the third place. Maybe it's
Yeah.
the same random one.
Okay. Well, this is
Um,
all right. It's a bit exciting.
it's the third place, but it's the fourth goal. If I don't know if that gives it away, then if it's I've gone for his goal against Leeds in the Premier League.
Mm.
For me that's
Mm.
the the reason I went for that one, again, like you said, there's so many best goals. There's a couple of honourable mentions. Even like his first goal for Arsenal was a fantastic goal. Shifts
Mm.
it, curler. These are so many strikes, and maybe let's do our top three, and then we'll talk about other strikes that didn't make the list because I think that's probably a
Yeah.
fairer way to do it. In
Yeah. Yeah.
case it, yeah,
We can send our apologies after our top three.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
To all the other honourable goals, but no, for my third place was the Leeds goal in the league. Leeds were a poor side by that point. I think they get relegated this season, don't they? In the unbeaten season, 03-04.
To be fair, I think for about 3 or 4 years, Paul Robinson must have hated Arsenal.
Yeah. And it's definitely not an important goal because we batter them. We win the game, comfortably. We're 4-0, I think it is, and Henry gets a 4. And was it 5-0 or was it 4-0?
Five.
Pires get one. Pires get one,
Five.
didn't
So
he?
Pires' goal is one of my favourite Arsenal
Yeah,
goals.
Pires gets one and Henry gets 4.
Beautiful goal.
The reason I go for Henry's 4th here and he just breaks away, and it's
Yeah.
the Martin, Tyler, and Andy
Mm.
Gray commentary saying I've seen a lot of things in this league, but I've never seen anything like him, and electrifying. It's
25
that,
years.
yeah, it's that. Again, he was the best player on the planet at this point, and he was literally unplayable. So when he bursts through and he's clipping over and he just still curls it round, it was for me just everything that Thierry Henry was about.
Mm.
That pace, that power. He was unplayable, and so he scored a lot of goals where he broke away from the back line and he slots it
Mm.
in. And it's just this is another one of those. But for me,
Mm.
it's the archetypal one of those, and it's just beautiful to watch. And
Mm.
he's just unplayable. You could have asked any of those Leeds players, and the Arsenal teammates as well. We've never been give the ball to Messi levels, where Barcelona's whole tactics was just give the ball to Messi, he'll do something.
Mm.
But I think this is almost as close as it got to that at this point, was just give the ball to Thierry Henry and he would just destroy teams.
Mm.
And like that was the closest we've got, and that's why it takes my third spot.
I remember one of my favourite Henry Leeds goals was actually, I think it might have been in the FA Cup when Lundberg pulls it back at Ellen Road and he smashes it in and he does his
Yeah.
little
Yeah, little shimmy,
one of his
little shimmy
best
celebration.
celebrations of all time. Yeah.
Yeah, again, I think it's the same season, I think.
Sweet
Or
as a nut, as they say in the London area.
yeah, and like yeah, just unplayable, So
Yeah.
yes, that fourth goal at Highbury
Okay.
in April.
Yeah. To be fair, that's definitely written down. Again, like you mentioned earlier, 228 goals. There's going to be at least 50 or
Yeah.
60 that are,
Just brilliant.
Third place, I've gone for his goal at Ewood Park.
Oh, very nice.
In the 06-07 season, I believe, Fabregas
One of his
teed
last
him up.
goals, yeah, for us. Yeah.
That season, I was looking actually, didn't score that many goals. I think he scored about 24 plus in about 5 or 6 seasons prior to that in consecutive seasons. And then that year, obviously, he struggled with injury, to be fair, bless him. And he managed, I think he only managed he got into double figures, but obviously he was starting to get injuries and the Barca links were there, weren't they? But that goal, I remember the strike, but when I looked it back, the build up to that goal was beautiful. We started off, they had a free kick. And we pick it up in our own half near the corner flag almost. And I think it's Riziki, Clichy maybe. They do a lovely little, they work themselves out of a little hole beautifully. And then Henry picks up on the halfway line. And then the next sort of 5-6 seconds are just devastating. Absolutely devastating.
Yeah.
I mean, Fabregas, a number of assists that he's added in the Prem. That would have been one of his not so remembered ones, but not like the one against Burnley for Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just Henry's strike is just scary.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
And for me, that was After much deliberation, that was my third choice. That one.
Yeah, no, fantastic strike.
Yeah, and
my number two.
I've got a feeling now silver and golds might be fairly similar. I don't know.
Well, they might be exactly the same, and I wouldn't blame them. So,
yeah.
My number 2 is the Spurs run, in 2002. I just think that it's the statue outside the stadium for a reason. The celebration goal. North London rivals. He runs 75 yards. again, you look at the defending and say, well, can no one bring him down? Can no one tackle him? The pace to run 75 yards against your North London rivals. It was, again, a bit like the third goal. Sorry, my bronze medal. It was just that everything was about Thierry Henry. So my criteria, you spoke about your criteria about just the quality of the goals. I don't think anyone, one of my criteria was, could anyone else score that goal? Certainly for Arsenal or just in general, but could anyone? And no one else could score that goal for Arsenal. At the time, I don't think anyone else could score that goal in world football. Maybe, that's my personal opinion. To run 75 yards, just goes past everyone and put it in the bottom corner. Yeah, it's my number 2.
Matt Etherington. Those were the classic sticker book days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that it was similar to my thoughts about the goal against Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool made it in because of the importance of the goal.
Yeah.
But the reason I didn't include that one was just purely because of the defending again. I mean, it was obviously a wonderful, like, the pace as well that managed to get away from 2 or 3 players. And a lovely finish, to be fair, left foot. But yeah, I mean, it's very difficult, isn't it?
Again, it's just like, for me, I was looking, I was like, we at Arsenal, especially at that era, were blessed with lots of phenomenal players. We had, Dennis Bergkamp, genius. You had Robert Pires, the skill, the level. Patrick Vieira, for me, is one of my favourite players of all time, as you well know, for Arsenal. I think he was everything for us. But no one else can score that goal at Arsenal. No one else can pick up the ball literally on their own area and just run through the whole team and almost be getting faster and faster the whole way. And then just ping it bottom corner with your weaker foot. This guy is 2002 at this point. The next 2 or 3 years, arguably the best footballer on the planet, or certainly in the top 2 or 3, as Ballon d'Or showed.
One of our more comfortable North London victories as well.
Yeah, we go on and win quite easily that game. It was a bit of an emphatic win, and so that's why it couldn't be an important one. It wasn't like a coming off the bench and scoring an equaliser like you had in your top 3, because it wasn't a needed goal. It was just a stand back and this guy's unplayable.
Well, my silver medal was pipped at the post. I mean, it's like a VAR decision, this one. But second place, I've gone for the goal against Man United at Highbury, the volley, flick and volley. What an incredible goal. I mean, obviously, wonderful celebration as well. We were saying this the other day, weren't we, about that was sort of the moment where you felt like the real superstar Henry had arrived. A few seasons to settle in, and some wonderful flashes of brilliance. But obviously, at this point, he's starting to become the main man. And that goal was definitely the arrival of that. I think the game as well, it wasn't against anyone. It was against our fierce rivals at the time for a decade. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm finding it hard to say that it's come in second place, to be honest. But I think
it doesn't come second place for me. It doesn't come second place for me. It comes first place for me.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. It's a phenomenal goal. The genius to your backs to goal, to get the ball into you, the speed at which he flicks and just lobs. And it's not just like a lob. It's a lob shot as well, because it's across the penalty area. So it's in the far corner. Barthez has no chance. This season, Man United win their 3rd straight league title. So obviously they won the title when they won the treble in 98-99. They win the league in 99-2000. This is 2000-2001 season. It's sort of October 2000. It's the last title they win before we truly arrive, and we win the double the very next year. And I think it was that point where we said, you know what, we've got a player here. Like you said, the season before, he was his first full season at Arsenal, and he'd scored, I think, ended up scoring sort of 16, 17 league goals. But he'd had a bit of a slow start. He'd had flashes of brilliance, and he'd had moments where, well, this guy could be a bit something, but looked quite erratic still. And could he really go on and be the player that we had hoped Anelka was going to be for us, or certainly the player that Ian Wright was in terms of bagging that quantity of goals? I think the jury was still very much out. And yet this goal, to flick that up, lob it over Barthez like that, to win a game against Man United at home 1-0. I think there's some nice comments from Alex Ferguson afterwards, like, you can't count for a goal like that. It's just special. It was genius. It was the Wasa celebration as well, which is the Budweiser advert at the time. It captured a moment where we had a very, very special footballer. And again, although he scored some cracking goals, Bergkamp, I don't think anyone else could score that goal in the Arsenal team. The speed at which he swiveled and lobbed over.
I was about to say I was just about to mention Bergkamp, because although perhaps not the sort of goal Bergkamp would have scored. Although, to be honest, I wouldn't put it past him. And I think that why it was such a genius goal is because we'd seen Bergkamp do this at the club for 3 or 4 years prior to Henry's arrival. You know, the goal against Leicester at Filbert Street. You know, these genius goals like the flick against Newcastle and then slots it home.
Yeah.
Whereas Henry showed that he wasn't just pace and power.
Yep.
And
No, this is why it's why for me Henry has everything. It's like, and
Yeah.
it's a debate for another podcast, but for me, I always land on Thierry Henry being our best player of all time because I think he has everything. And like with my first 2 goals are all about the pace in my top 3, that he just could just blow a team away with pace. But this one it was kind of, for me, it was almost like the new improved Bergkamp goals. And I don't mean that, you know, disrespectfully, because like you said, Dennis Bergkamp's a genius, but the goals that Bergkamp used to score were like lovely placements, beautiful technique to top to corner, curls that you couldn't imagine, thought process. But almost what Henry did here was do all that, but in speed as well. The quick flick, quick swivel, and bang, top corner. You know, Bergkamp's would more be about the panache and the beautiful pull down and then just lovely curled and floated, which in a way is a genius of its own. But for me, that Henry goal had everything: flick, swivel, bang, top corner. We've got a superstar here. It's my number 1. What's your number 1 though? It's clearly not in my top 3 then.
No, his tips to the post, and actually a goal that I've heard Thierry Henry on a few occasions admit himself that he finds it hard to not pick this one as his favourite, and it's the goal at West Ham.
Yep, it's a phenomenal goal.
That to me is, we're talking about electrifying. I mean, that was just a scary, scary goal. We talk about the pace of the flick and the volley against Man United,
Yeah.
but when you watch that goal back, Vieira doesn't give him an easy pass. He pings it into him, and the first touch is just disgusting, because I think it's Christian Daly who's at his back, and he knows he's there. And the first touch isn't a bad one. It's well executed. It goes round Daly, spins. The next one's on his left knee, I think, and then an absolute rocket, which
he
actually
just
was
clicks.
a goal at the time, because I think in that game
down
anyway.
Yeah, we're 2-0 down, aren't we? And we come back and draw 2.
Yeah. I went for that one.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It was in my honourable mentions list because, like, as a pure strike, I had that one. Because I think my criteria was just like that, slightly different. So to yours, like you said, that pure strike. If I was going on pure quality of hit, that's probably number 1, or certainly my top 2. Just because he hits that so hard, so clean. David James has absolutely no chance. You know, we literally was it. I don't know if it was opening day of the season. Was it opening day of the season, or certainly in the first couple of weeks?
First couple of games, yeah.
Yeah, it might have been opening, if not certainly a couple of weeks. And it's
might have been our
just
first
a hot
away game, maybe.
Yeah, hot day. We go 2-0 down, and like, you know, we're one of the favourites for the league title. You know, and he does that, and just a phenomenal hit. The other phenomenal hits I had up in my honourable mentions were the Man City at home, raining.
Yep, got that down.
Know,
yep.
Yeah, just the cleanness of strike. It literally like a rocket into the top corner. Was that David James as well? I think it might have been. Ironically,
Jose Reyes' debut. God bless him.
Yeah, and it's just sort of the ball stays so straight, so pure. And a couple of European goals also I've got to do with my honourable mentions. Inter Milan, obviously, again, arrival of a superstar to run away, run the half length of the pitch, and then I think it's Zanetti or someone like that, just turn inside out and then bottom left rifle. Sorry, bottom right, but bottom left corner with left foot rifle into the corner. And Roma to complete a hat trick. Again, that was a combination between a great goal and an important one in terms of, you know, a hat trick away from home to certify yourself as one of the best players in the world. Those are some honourable mentions.
Yeah, I'll just add a couple, if I may. Obviously, I've got the ones that you've mentioned down. The back heel against Charlton, quite cheeky. But also the free kick against Charlton as well. I mean, that was just unbelievable free kick. I think someone was even on the line, and he managed to put it in the top corner. The goal against Prague, we mentioned that earlier. The goal against Highbury, against Wigan on the final day. Obviously, that was. So yeah, I mean, I think we've managed to do a good job there. There was one goal. I'd like. Well, it never actually happened, but. Do you remember that run at White Hart Lane that he went on? I think it was the 02-03 season.
Yes.
It would have been the number 1 for me. I watched some of the highlights back the other day. I was thinking, did he pass it back to someone or did he shoot? But honestly, if he had pulled that off, that would have been I think that probably would have been my number 1, but never managed to find the net. So
it's weird how, like, maybe this is just me being nostalgic and being sort of retro, but I think there's a lot of goals from sort of 2000 to sort of 2002, 2003, which were, for me, just Henry beautiful, because like by the time he got to 03, 04 and 05, he was obviously our talisman. He was obviously one of the best players in the world, and he was more an out and out striker. It's when he was still drifting in from the left, and we still had other strikers at the club. We still had Bergkamp, we still had, Kanu, we still had other strikers at the club who were maybe playing that front position. And Henry did a few things which were just glimpses of the player that he was going to become. And so there's that, like his debut goal against Southampton, that cutting in, the Spurs goal, the Man United goal, when he just had a very special talent. And for me, the best player that's ever played for our club. Maybe not the greatest, but certainly the best.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that's the sort of thing that would come up in a greatest player of Arsenal debate. I mean, I was looking at the list of sort of finals that he'd played in, and then, because this was a bit of a sub research kind of topic that I went into, because he played in the UEFA Cup final, he played in the Champions League final, he played in the FA Cup finals against Liverpool, Chelsea, Southampton. Didn't play against United, I don't think.
No.
Again.
Did he play against Southampton? But yeah.
And
that was a dire final in general.
Yeah, I won't mention it too much, but
that's why it's forgotten wherever he played, because I can't remember anyone playing.
And then I looked at the semi-finals as well in those competitions, and Henry only scored one goal in a semi-final or a final in his whole career at Arsenal. It was against Lens in the UEFA Cup in 2000, and I was shocked at that. Because we've spoken at length about this before, Tom, haven't we? About the whole Henry debate with Bergkamp or whatever. Is that he scored so many goals for Arsenal, but when you look back, this isn't a criticism at all. It's just more of an observation, really, that in the big cup games, for example, and even in semi-finals of those, when I looked further, he hadn't actually scored.
Well, the irony is, it's exactly the same for Dennis as well. So you've got two players here who are geniuses for Arsenal Football Club. I don't think you can have a debate realistically or not sanely with any Arsenal fan. And if you're debating the best player of a club, it is between those two. Those two are our greatest players ever. None of them score in an FA Cup for Arsenal, despite all getting for lots of finals. Bergkamp was at the club for the 98 finals, 2001 finals, 2002 finals, 2003 finals, and the 2005 finals. He doesn't score in any of them. He's actually at a cup final more than Henry. Doesn't score in any of them. Same thing with Henry. And it's just that really weird asterisk that we go on. We win the FA Cup in 1998, 2002, 2003, and 2005. All of those finals, okay, Henry wasn't at the club until 98, but all of those finals are best two players ever at the club. Not one of them scores in them. And it's really bizarre. It's really bizarre. Even like semi-finals in 1999 FA Cup, where Man United win the treble and we're so close to win that double that year, Bergkamp has a penalty in the 92nd minute and we go through to the FA Cup final and he misses it. Like, it's really weird, because I don't want to say either of them are choking or whatever, but it's just, you've got two geniuses there and none of them score in a big match.
Yeah, it's an awkward sort of...
It's a really strange one. It's a really strange one. They're clearly big game players. I mean, if you look at how many winners Henry scored against, like, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, and the like, through Premier League games, huge Premier League games, in tussles to win titles. It's not like he's not like he shied away. But it's just
4 golden boots, 2 player of the years.
It's just a weird asterisk. It's just a weird asterisk against them. And it's a strange one for me. That's why I think also it's very difficult to have the greatest debate on any subject, because to me there's two different versions. There's the greatest and the best, So I think, and this is definitely going off track, but I think it's nice to wrap up the Henry conversation, is that when people talk about Ronaldo and Messi, I think there's definitely an argument about who's the greatest player ever, but I don't think there's an argument about who's the best player ever. Because for me, the best player, if you just watch him for 5 minutes, you obviously see that Messi's got more talent, natural born talent, and that's the best. But it doesn't have to be football. Same for me as golf, for example. Jack Nicklaus is at 18. You could argue that Tiger Woods will never get there, and therefore he's not the greatest Jack Nicklaus is. But no one could argue that is best. At the best golf that's ever been played is in the year 2000. It was Tiger Woods by miles. And I think there's a similar thing when you talk about Henry in terms of best and greatest. Bergkamp changed our club, but the man we've talked about today, at his best, for me, could do everything. And that's why he's the best. And I think we've seen that in some of the goals that we've captured today. Could run past players, could ping things from 35, 40 yards. What could he do? What couldn't he do? You know, that for me is why when you look at Henry goal catalogue, you have to split them out into sort of important like we've done, best like we've done. Yeah.
Thierry, if you're listening, just drop us a tweet and what you think of our choices.
Yeah, what do you reckon your best goal was and your most important? Because, you know, there's two different things there for you.
If you'd like to get in touch with us about your thoughts on our selections regarding best and most important Henry goals for Arsenal, we'd love to hear from you. Tweet us at HTO Football. Thanks for listening, guys, and take care.